What a match! Brazil survive an incredible scare and book their place in the next round with a dramatic 2-1 comeback victory over Japan. The game started with Brazil dominating possession, creating chance after chance, but Japan stayed compact, disciplined, and dangerous on the counter. Then, in the 29th minute, disaster struck for Brazil. Kaishu Sano pounced on a defensive mistake and calmly slotted the ball home. Against the run of play, Japan were leading 1-0, and the Brazilian fans inside NRG Stadium were stunned. Brazil pushed forward relentlessly, but Japan's defense stood like a wall. The first half ended with the five-time world champions trailing, and Carlo Ancelotti knew something had to change. The second half began with fresh energy. Endrick entered the pitch, adding pace and movement to Brazil's attack. Then came the turning point. In the 56th minute, Casemiro rose highest from a Gabriel Martinelli delivery and powered home the equalizer. The stadium exploded. Brazil were back in the game, and the momentum completely shifted. Wave after wave of Brazilian attacks followed. Vinicius Jr. dazzled with his dribbling, Bruno Guimarães controlled the midfield, and Japan were forced deeper and deeper into their own half. Just when it looked like extra time was inevitable, football delivered one more unforgettable moment. Deep into stoppage time, Bruno Guimarães slipped a perfect pass into the box. Gabriel Martinelli timed his run to perfection, stayed calm under pressure, and smashed the ball into the bottom corner. Goal! Brazil complete the comeback. The Brazilian bench erupted, the fans went wild, and Martinelli became the hero of the night. The final whistle confirmed it. Brazil 2, Japan 1. Japan fought with incredible heart and nearly produced one of the biggest upsets of the tournament, but Brazil's experience, quality, and fighting spirit carried him through. Casemiro was deservedly named player of the match after scoring the equalizer and delivering a commanding midfield performance. Brazil march on, Japan bow out with pride. If this match is any indication, the road to the World Cup trophy is only getting more dramatic. The World Cup has delivered another unforgettable classic. For nearly 90 minutes, Japan stood on the edge of one of the greatest upsets in football history. They defended with courage, attacked with confidence, and believed they could eliminate Brazil. The match began with Brazil controlling possession, but football isn't always about who has the ball. In the 29th minute, Kaishu Sano punished a Brazilian mistake and fired Japan into a shocking 1-0 lead. Silence filled the stadium as the underdogs celebrated. Brazil looked frustrated. Every attack was blocked. Every cross was cleared. Japan's goalkeeper and defenders were producing a masterclass under immense pressure. But champions never stop believing. Carlo Ancelotti's substitutions changed everything. Brazil came out in the second half with greater intensity, and in the 56th minute, Casemiro delivered when his country needed him most. Rising above everyone else, he buried the equalizer and reignited Brazil's World Cup dream. From that moment on, Brazil launched a relentless assault. Vinicius Jr. kept stretching the defense, Bruno Guimarães dictated the tempo, and Japan were forced to defend with every player behind the ball. Then came the moment no one will forget. The clock ticked into stoppage time. One final attack, one final opportunity. Bruno Guimarães spotted Gabriel Martinelli making a brilliant run. The pass was perfect. Martinelli took one touch, looked up, and blasted the ball into the corner of the net. Brazil had done it. From one goal down to a stunning 2-1 victory, the Seleção once again proved why they are one of football's greatest nations. Japan leave the tournament with pride, respect, and admiration after pushing Brazil to the absolute limit. Brazil survive. Brazil celebrate. And the World Cup journey continues. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we love the FIFA World Cup. Brazil were pushed to the absolute limit by a fearless Japanese side in one of the most thrilling knockout matches of the tournament. From the opening whistle, Brazil looked confident. They dominated possession, created opportunities, and seemed ready to take control. But Japan had a different plan. They stayed organized, waited patiently, and struck with ruthless efficiency. In the 29th minute, Brazil made a costly mistake at the back. Kaishu Sano reacted first, stayed composed, and buried the chance into the net. Against all expectations, Japan were leading 1-0. The Brazilian supporters couldn't believe what they were seeing. The first half ended with Brazil behind, despite controlling much of the game. Questions were beginning to rise. Could another World Cup giant really be heading home? After the break, everything changed. Carlo Ancelotti made bold substitutions, bringing fresh legs and fresh belief. Brazil increased the pressure, moved the ball faster, and started attacking from every angle. Then came the breakthrough. In the 56th minute, Casemiro showed exactly why he is one of football's greatest leaders. Meeting a perfectly delivered ball from Gabriel Martinelli, he powered a brilliant finish past Zion Suzuki. 1-1. The momentum had completely shifted. Japan refused to surrender. Every tackle, every interception, every clearance kept their World Cup dream alive. Their defenders threw themselves in front of every shot, while goalkeeper Zion Suzuki made save after save to frustrate Brazil. As the match entered stoppage time, the tension became unbearable. Extra time seemed certain, but Brazil had one final attack. Bruno Guimarães spotted Gabriel Martinelli making a perfectly timed run. The pass split the Japanese defense. Martinelli stayed calm, took control, and fired an unstoppable shot into the bottom corner. Goal! NRG Stadium exploded with noise. Brazilian players sprinted across the pitch in celebration as Japan collapsed in heartbreak. From one goal down to a dramatic 2-1 comeback, Brazil once again proved why they are one of the greatest football nations in history. Casemiro's leadership, Bruno Guimarães' vision, and Martinelli's late heroics kept Brazil's World Cup dream alive. Japan may be eliminated, but they leave the tournament with their heads held high after producing a performance that earned the respect of football fans around the world. This wasn't just a football match. This was passion. This was drama. This was the FIFA World Cup at its very best. Every World Cup creates heroes. Every World Cup breaks hearts. And tonight in Houston, Brazil and Japan gave us a match that will be remembered for years. For 90 minutes, these two nations fought for one place in the next round. Brazil carried the weight of history. Japan carried the dream of making history. From the first whistle, Brazil looked like the stronger side. Vinicius Jr. danced past defenders, Bruno Guimarães controlled the midfield, and chance after chance came Brazil's way. But Japan refused to panic. They stayed disciplined, waited for their moment, and when Brazil made one mistake, they punished it without mercy. In the 29th minute, Kaishu Sano found himself in the right place at the right time. One calm finish later, and Japan were leading 1-0. The Brazilian fans fell silent. The impossible suddenly looked possible. As halftime arrived, Japan were just 45 minutes away from eliminating one of football's biggest giants. Carlo Ancelotti knew his team needed more than talent. They needed belief. The second half began with urgency. Every Brazilian player pushed forward with greater determination. The passes became sharper, the attacks became faster, the pressure became relentless. Then came the captain's response. Casemiro stepped forward when Brazil needed him most. In the 56th minute, he powered home the equalizer, lifting not only the scoreline but the spirit of an entire nation. Now it was Brazil attacking with everything they had. Japan defended bravely. Every block was celebrated like a goal. Every clearance brought them closer to extra time. Minute after minute passed. The clock kept ticking. The tension inside NRG Stadium became almost unbearable. Then football delivered its magic. Deep into stoppage time, Bruno Guimarães spotted Gabriel Martinelli making a brilliant run behind the defense. The pass was perfect. Martinelli stayed composed. One touch, one finish, one unforgettable moment. The ball flew into the bottom corner. Brazil had completed the comeback. The stadium erupted in pure emotion. Some players celebrated with tears of joy. Others simply collapsed onto the grass, exhausted after one of the toughest battles of the tournament. Japan's players stood frozen. Their World Cup dream had ended just seconds before the final whistle. But they walked away with the respect of millions. They challenged Brazil until the very last moment and proved once again that they belong among the world's best. For Brazil, this victory was about more than reaching the next round. It was about resilience. It was about character. It was about never giving up, even when the dream seemed to be slipping away. The final score read Brazil 2, Japan 1. But the numbers tell only part of the story. Because this wasn't just another football match. It was 90 minutes of courage, hope, heartbreak, and unforgettable World Cup drama. And if Brazil continue to fight with this spirit, the rest of the world has been warned. The Seleção are still alive, and their journey toward World Cup glory continues. What if I told you that Brazil came within minutes of crashing out of the World Cup? On one side stood Brazil, 5-time world champions, carrying the hopes of millions. On the other stood Japan, fearless, disciplined, and ready to shock the football world. From the opening whistle, Brazil controlled the game. The passes flowed, the attacks kept coming, and the yellow shirts looked destined to score first. But football has its own script. One mistake, one loose ball, one unforgettable moment. In the 29th minute, Kaishu Sano punished Brazil's defensive error and fired Japan into a stunning 1-0 lead. The stadium fell silent. Brazil were dominating the statistics, but Japan were winning where it mattered most, the scoreboard. As halftime arrived, questions echoed around the stadium. Was another World Cup giant about to fall? The second half began with urgency. Brazil attacked from every direction. Vinicius Jr. kept running at defenders. Bruno Guimarães controlled the midfield with confidence. Every attack carried more danger than the last. Then, the breakthrough. In the 56th minute, Casemiro stepped up when Brazil needed a hero. A perfectly delivered ball found him inside the box. One powerful finish. One roar from nearly 70,000 fans. 1-1. Brazil were alive again, but Japan refused to surrender. Every tackle was fearless. Every clearance was desperate. Every minute that passed brought them closer to extra time. The clock reached 90 minutes. The fourth official raised the board. 6 minutes of added time. 6 minutes to decide everything. Brazil launched one final attack. Bruno Guimarães looked up and spotted Gabriel Martinelli making a perfectly timed run. The pass sliced through Japan's defense. Martinelli raced onto the ball. One touch, one shot, goal. Absolute scenes inside NRG Stadium. Brazil's bench emptied onto the pitch. The fans erupted. The dream was alive. Japan's players dropped to their knees, devastated after coming so close to producing one of the greatest World Cup upsets ever. The final whistle blew.